Welcome everybody to the new CommuniCast or Failcast or MovieCast or whatever we want to call it. I'm your host, Marter, the one who does all of those movie reviews, and my guest is Dark Knifer. Say hello to everyone, Dark Knifer.
Hello, everyone.
We're also going to have a third party with us today, Psychic Taco, the man who has a taco avatar all the time, but he decided to make us wait for an hour and a half, show up for 5 minutes, and then abandon us. So this is dedicated to you, you stupid son of a bitch. Today our goal is to kind of make a rundown of the movies of 2013. We were initially going to go through all of them, but because that would be boring and because nobody cares, we're just going to do the ones that we actually want to talk about. So we're going to start with January, and Dark Knifer, what interests you in January?
Texas Chainsaw 3D. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that doesn't interest anyone at all. Nobody cares.
No, nobody does care. I'm sort of half curious about John dies at the end, just because I know nothing about it, but that's not really much of a reason.
And it doesn't really leave us much to talk about. All I know is that it filmed quite a while ago, and it's just been in post-production or possibly even sitting on a shelf for a while. And it has two main actors that we don't even know who they are.
No.
One of the ones I was curious about prior to it coming out was Gangster Squad, but I've already seen it and it's awful, and if you go see it, you should go, I don't know, go see The Untouchables again and then tell me it was a good use of your $11. Gangster Squad is by the guy who did Zombieland, which, you know, that's a good thing. Zombieland, most people like Zombieland, I think, right?
Yeah, Zombieland was... I have it in my DVD, my small DVD collection.
So there you go. He liked Zombieland. I don't know many people who liked 30 Minutes or Less, which was not anywhere near as good, but that's fine. And he tried to take on the gangster genre here, and failed very, very poorly. It was an awful movie, and it's The Untouchables, but worse in every way. So you have no reason to see it.
So that's January then, or we got anything else?
I don't know. I always like taking shots at Arnold Schwarzenegger, and with The Last Stand, it looks like he's going to be back into doing terrible movies and being awful in them. And if it was any good, it wouldn't be released in January, for one. I mean, it's been done for a couple of months. They could have released it in November, and they didn't. They wanted to do January, the dumping ground for bad movies. So it kind of makes sense. And Schwarzenegger can't act, and this action movie is not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, so February, it's slightly more interesting. There is Warm Bodies, which when I first saw it I thought would be like the next Twilight thing, except with zombies instead of vampires. But it looks like it's more romantic comedy, maybe a la Zombieland, but I don't know for certain. It's hard to say with the trailer.
And romantic comedy doesn't exactly inspire great words of courage or joy from most viewers, but it's by the guy who did 50-50, and 50-50 was great. So, you know, you gotta have some hope for it. We also have, one of the ones I'm interested in is Side Effects, which is by Steven Soderbergh, which, that's pretty much the only reason I'm interested in it. Steven Soderbergh usually makes really good movies. He did the Ocean's trilogy, and, you know, I can see that turning out well.
Not much on it at the looks of it, though.
No, it's been kind of a... It has a trailer now, which it's not a very good trailer, but it has a trailer. And all I know is that Steven Soderbergh, he's going to make good movies. He did Contagion as well, which was... It looks to be a somewhat similar movie. And then another one I'm looking forward to...
That was not so long ago as well.
No, that was 2011, I think. Another one I'm looking forward to is A Glimpse Inside the Mind of Charles Swan III, if only because
There's a title for you.
The star is Charlie Sheen, and I'm pretty much game for anything Charlie Sheen's in.
Interesting cover. It's just a peeled banana. What that suggests, we'll let you decide.
Yeah, I have no idea. I'm not even going to try to speculate, but Charlie Sheen having the lead role in a movie after the 2.5 Men debacle, that's something you gotta see. February also brings us a new Die Hard, which, I don't know, does anyone still care about Die Hard?
It's a different name. That's A Good Day to Die Hard, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, well, the last one was Live Free or Die Hard, so I guess they're done with title or with numbered sequels. But I liked I liked most of the Die Hards. I didn't like Die Hard 2, but I liked the first one, the third one, and the fourth one. Even though the fourth one was PG-13, which is a killer.
Oh yeah, that would have been. I haven't seen any Die Hards, which I'm sure someone's surprised about, but yeah,
I'm a little.
PG-13 action movies are usually a bit crap.
It's not necessarily that. It's just that the first Die Hard was at the time a hard R. It probably wouldn't be a hard R anymore. It would just be R for language. The violence isn't even that bad. But the series was R up until the fourth installment, where they decided to go PG-13 to get some more money. But really, the violence has never been what made it R, or at least it wouldn't be nowadays. It's just language. So they cut that down, which means that Bruce Willis's famous expression had to be trimmed. But it wasn't a bad movie at all. It was a lot of fun.
Um, Anything else in February, or move on to some stuff in March?
February also has Identity Thief, which might end up being one of the worst movies of the year. Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy star in a comedy that's just not going to be funny. I don't know. I've seen the trailer. It doesn't seem like it's going to make me laugh. Although that type of comedy, I guess, is probably going to be liked by somebody.
What else we got here? What was the one I was talking about?
They're re-releasing Top Gun in 3D and exciting absolutely nobody.
There is also another Stephanie Meyer book being made into a movie in The Host, though apparently The Host is one of her better books, which could mean nothing at all. But it's it's a sci-fi. It's still got a annoying love triangle in it, but like a parasite in a girl's brain or something. I haven't read the book, but apparently it's better than Twilight. But that's not entirely difficult, so you never know.
I haven't read the book either. I did actually read Twilight, and I've seen all those movies. But most importantly, The Host, we're moving on to March now, is directed by Andrew Niccol, who did Gattaca. He did, what was that movie, In Time. And he's kind of a sci-fi guy, even though Lord of War wasn't. But lots of his stuff is sci-fi, and he could actually make a good movie out of this. And it also has a pretty good lead actor, who, she was the lead in Hannah. I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name.
Saoirse Ronan? I don't know.
She's Irish. I don't know how to pronounce it. But the two male leads for that love triangle are both pretty bad in Jake Abel and Max Irons. So it could go either way. But at least it has some promise. It has more promise than Twilight really ever had.
Oh yeah, I'd agree with you there.
March doesn't actually seem like that good a month for me though. I mean, it opens the first week. It has 21 and Over, which is going to be a spiritual successor to Project X, which was released last year. It's basically just going to be another teen party movie. Although 21 Over, guy turns 21. I guess you can make that distinction, but it's the same type of movie. Unfortunately, it has Skylar Astin in it, who is going to lose any goodwill he built up from his role in Pitch Perfect with me, but that's fine. And that same day, The Last Exorcism Part 2 is going to be released, and if you actually knew they were making a Last Exorcism Part 2, good on you, because they shouldn't. And it just got its trailer released, and it's not going to be good, guys.
If the first one was any inclination.
You know, the first one wasn't that bad. It's just it ended. You don't need a sequel to it. There was no reason to make a sequel to it except that the first one made over $60 million on a $2 million budget. So it was really cost effective, but that doesn't mean that you can just go and make a sequel. March also brings us Oz the Great and Powerful, because we needed another Wizard of Oz movie, I guess. This one's by Sam Raimi, who did the Spider-Man trilogy and the Evil Dead films. And I don't know, it looks way too Alice in Wonderland to me, or 2010's Alice in Wonderland, which I didn't like. So I'm very cautious about that.
Yeah, that's probably what I was thinking as well.
And then we also have the new G.I. Joe movie, which was supposed to release last year, but, well, people vary on their reasoning behind why it was delayed, but early pre-screenings said that Channing Tatum's character got killed off really early on, and nobody liked that, so they reshot like half the movie in order to make sure his character either survives to the end or lives a lot longer. The official studio reason was that they were converting it to 3D, which in itself is not a good reason.
So who will like that? Movie Bob might like it, but I don't know about everyone else. I didn't see the first one. Apparently it wasn't too bad, but
Well, Bob liked the first G.I. Joe. He was not with most critics on that. I tried to watch part of it and I kind of fell asleep, but it was really late at night when I did that. So I'm not going to judge the first one without seeing it, and the second one's not out yet, but I'm not exactly excited about it. I'm just curious in it and to see why they really postponed it, because if it was for massive reshoots and not just conversion, which shouldn't take as long as it took in the first place, and they shouldn't, honestly, post-conversion 3D isn't worth it anyway, but, you know, there you go.
speaking of which, we got in April, next month, the Jurassic Park 3D.
Which we definitely needed, because that's going to look great in 3D.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what's better than 1993 animatronics coming at you in 3D?
Star Wars in 3D.
Oh yeah, that's also happening. Not in April, but it's going to happen. Although a lot of people liked, well, I mean, they didn't like the Phantom Menace in 3D because it's the Phantom Menace, but they didn't mind the 3D parts of it, I guess.
Well, if George Lucas always did like special effects, I suppose, so at least he'd do that right, I suppose.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't want to see it in theaters, but there you go. April also brings us the Evil Dead remake, which seems to be completely going against the tone of the first one and going the straight horror route, which, coming after Cabin in the Woods made fun of exactly what this new Evil Dead is going to do, I'm very weary about it.
As is most people in the general horror genre.
And that the poster promises it's the scariest movie you'll ever see. So, you know, it's written by Diablo Cody, who did Juno and Jennifer's Body, and her dialogue is, people either really like it or really hate it. I fall into the latter camp. I can't stand her I'm really, really hip dialogue. So mixing that with just a straight up horror movie, it doesn't look like it's going to be my cup of tea.
Sounds like the formula to have an incredibly unlikable main character, which, unless you're using that as, like, using that as a tool to deliver something, like in video game Silent Hill 2, I suppose, it doesn't sound like it'll work.
Yeah, no, her main characters at least, are always, well, the first, for Juno and Jennifer's Body, both of them were supposed to be relatively likable, and no, it didn't work. April also brings us Oblivion, which is a new Tom Cruise sci-fi movie, in case you needed another Tom Cruise sci-fi movie. And it looks really, really interesting. It has Morgan Freeman and Olga Krylenko in it as well. And it had a huge budget, and it looks really interesting just based on the trailer.
Much less interesting is Scary Movie 5.
Because, seriously, does anybody want a new Scary Movie? That's, for all of the releases this year, that's the one I can't understand. Why would they cast... Okay, the lead is Ashley Tisdale, who was like one of the Disney people, and it's making fun of Paranormal Activity mostly, and why?
Especially since there's going to be a Paranormal Activity 5 this year, and there's a Scary Movie 5 this year also, so it's sort of in the same boat in the commercial sellout department, I suppose.
Yeah, except Paranormal Activity at least usually accomplishes what it's meant to do, even if it's not necessarily good, it at least scares people. Scary Movie 5 probably won't make anyone laugh. And in April...
Though you did say you wanted anything with Charlie Sheen in it, and he is in Scary Movie 5.
That is true, but it's just a cameo, and that cameo is almost shown in its entirety in the trailer, and it's not funny. April also brings us a new Michael Bay movie called Pain and Gain, which only had a $22 million budget. So all of you saying, well, he needs $200 million to make all of the explosions in the world, well, this is something he's wanted to make for quite a long time and hasn't been able to because he keeps getting forced to do the Transformers movies. This one's about bodybuilders, Mark Wahlberg and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and I can't really judge the tone of this yet. I can't tell if it's making fun of those macho movies or if it actually is one. So that's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I'm surprised since it's Michael Bay, and I usually don't like much of his work, but that actually intrigued me at least.
And I'll basically watch anything with Mark Wahlberg in it, so that's good for me.
Yeah, he's usually pretty good. I like him.
Moving on to May, we open up with Iron Man 3, which I think everyone is excited about. Most people are excited about. Even though Iron Man 2, I didn't like it that much, mostly because it felt like it was there just to set up the Avengers. But now that the Avengers is come and gone, hopefully Iron Man 3 actually does something interesting.
It certainly looked like it in the trailers. Like, I'm no comic book follower by any stretch of imagination, but people who are have told me how much important stuff is happening, like a huge list of it that might happen in Iron Man 3. That's all speculation, but it's quite likely, knowing the previous Iron Mans and whatnot.
Yeah, well, it should have a good villain. Ben Kingsley is presumably the villain. They haven't technically revealed it yet, but we all know. He's apparently playing the Mandarin, which to comic book people apparently means something, even though he's not technically Chinese or whatever the nationality of it was. But, who cares?
Oh, are they doing that again?
Yeah, we're complaining
Was
that.
the last time they did that with Thor? The gate card was black or something.
Yeah, Idris Elba played him, and that was bad because reasons.
I liked him in the movie. He was great in the movie.
Yeah, he's just fine. He's always been a good actor, and cast the person who you want to cast, and will make the role most effective. When it comes to adapting comic books, who cares?
Apart from the comic book fans, but that doesn't matter anymore because the superhero genre is the biggest genre in existence right now, possibly.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest moneymakers, so they're gonna go with hopefully talent.
Which I bet pisses off those of you who grew up getting beaten up for liking comic books.
Which is a whole other issue that hopefully we're not going to get into because honestly, you'll probably all want to beat me up by the end of it.
Probably, and we'll probably both die. So let's stick to movies then.
Okay, next we have The Great Gatsby, which was supposed to be released on Christmas of 2012, but was pushed back for reasons I'm not even sure of. Probably because they didn't want it competing with Django. I mean, both were Leonardo DiCaprio movies, and you don't want to release both of them on the same day. More than likely, though, it's because Baz Luhrmann doesn't know how to finish a film on time.
Quite possibly. There is another Star Trek, which I don't think they made one of those in quite a while, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, last Star Trek was 2009, which was a reboot. I think it was not necessarily a hard reboot because they kept some elements of the series, but I don't care because I never watched it. I didn't watch the original series. I didn't watch the new movie. I'm not going to watch this. I don't care about Star Trek. It's not my thing.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat in that department.
We also have a new Fast and the Furious, which is tentatively called Fast 6, which please someone change that name before it gets released.
Yeah, that doesn't roll well for posters or anything. Fast and Furious 6 doesn't sound offensive in that department.
No, they should just keep it Fast and Furious 6, and that's good enough. I've actually it's not a great series, but it's an okay series. It's kept consistent quality through 5 movies so far, so I'm not really expecting anything less from the 6th installment.
Yeah, which is something a lot of movies have failed to do. Even Harry Potter, well, in my opinion, didn't even manage that.
Well, I didn't like the, what was it, 7th one, the part 1 of Deathly Hallows. That was quite boring, but part 8 picked it up again, and I liked most of the ones leading up to it.
Yeah, sort of exactly just like the books, actually. I kind of lost. I didn't like the movies after the 4th one. I mean, they were good, but they were certainly nowhere near as interesting or fun or anything like that.
May also brings us The Hangover Part 3, which means that Todd Phillips can make a bucket load more money from making the worst franchise of all time. If there's one movie franchise that I don't want to see any more of, it's The Hangover. I hated the first one. It was the worst movie of whatever year it was released. I think it was 2009, 2008, something like that. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I hate it. Every frame of it is awful, and I know a lot of people find it funny, but it's about the complete opposite from what I find funny.
I know what you mean from seeing the trailers, because yet again, it's a movie I haven't seen. You'll be hearing that a lot.
And also, Dude, Where's My Car did it first and did it better. I just need to throw that out there.
I'll agree with that.
June
And
brings us...
June.
Oh.
Sorry.
June begins with After Earth, which has Will Smith and Will Smith's son, and it's directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and most of you have just stopped listening or caring about After Earth.
If anyone goes there and it's not a joke, you should probably rethink your life and where you went wrong.
Well, now I don't think it's going to be... I mean, okay, The Last Airbender sucked, but it looked pretty good. And After Earth is a sci-fi film set after, like, civilization's been wiped out or something. And it will at least look good, and it might actually help Shyamalan have a career again. I'm not thinking it will, but that's a possibility.
It's a slight possibility.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be any good, but it has a possibility to be good. There's also a new Much Ado About Nothing, which nobody would care about if it wasn't directed by Joss Whedon and didn't have Nathan Fillion in it.
Yeah, I just noticed that as well. It's like, no wonder people talk about it.
Yeah, now people like Joss Whedon, not just for the Avengers, but mostly because of Firefly. I haven't seen Firefly, so I don't care. I really like the Avengers, though, so I'm kind of looking forward to it. I'm not a big Nathan Fillion fan, which I know will get a lot of hate, but that's only because I haven't seen much of his stuff, because I don't watch a lot of TV.
But to be fair, you'd get beaten to a pulp by Nathan Fillion fans if you didn't want homoerotic sex with him.
Or if I got tired of them posting random gifs of Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, there's that as well.
June also brings us Now You See Me, which has Jesse Eisenberg and Isla Fisher and Morgan Freeman and Woody Harrelson and Mark Ruffalo and Michael Caine, and look at that cast, and it's about magic, and it's about a bank heist, or just heists, and they use magic to do it, and it looks really interesting.
That does look interesting indeed. And then we've got, immediately after that, on the 14th, Man of Steel, which is the lead up to the Justice League series of movies, which is going to be competing against Avengers too, I suppose.
Now, Man of Steel, there's still a lot of mystery behind it, considering we don't know how it's going to end. We don't know if it's going to reintroduce Batman for this Justice League. We don't even know how it's going to connect to the Justice League. All we know is that it's directed by Zack Snyder, who did the new Dawn of the Dead. He did Watchmen. He did that Owl animated movie, and he did Sucker Punch. And he did 300, but nobody cares about that. And it's produced by Christopher Nolan, who directed the latest Batman trilogy. So you can kind of see where the speculation starts.
Yeah, that could mean so many number of things that I'm sure everyone's thinking about right now.
But we don't even have a cast for the Justice League movie, so if it's gonna set it up, if it's gonna introduce any characters for the Justice League movie, they're gonna have to sign a contract now, and the film's been shot, so either somehow some secrecy in the film industry actually happened, or they're just gonna wing it.
Probably the wing it option, I imagine.
That could definitely happen. June is actually, it's got quite a few releases. It has a Monsters Inc. sequel called Monsters University, or prequel, but mostly it's going to be a sequel anyway. Which brings back lots of the cast returning, doing the voices, and I think everyone loved Monsters Inc. I hope.
That was a very fun film. It was good as well, and the Pixar quality,
However, Pixar sequels, we've only got Cars 2, and Cars 2 wasn't good, so there's that possibility as well.
Though, to be fair, Cars 1 was certainly one of Pixar's weaker films, and that's not just because it was about NASCAR. I'm Australian, so I don't give two shits about NASCAR. I never see it, and the movie still felt not as good as Toy Story or Monsters Inc. or whatnot.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. We also have World War Z, which is going to be such a disaster. I'm sorry, I know lots of people like the books, but they finished filming that and then they had to go back and do another month of reshoots. And the production behind it is such a mess that if they make a good film out of it, it'll be a miracle.
That does scream a big mess. And then after that, on the 28th, Kick-Ass 2.
And Kick Ass was a really good movie. I liked it. Um, Lots of people liked it. And it was really, really violent, and it was funny, and it had some actually surprisingly good drama. And the sequel is not being directed by the same guy, which is a bit of a shame. Matthew Vaughn is not returning. He's writing the screenplay or helping to write the screenplay, and he's producing, but he's not directing. Most of the cast returns, and among the new people, we have Jim Carrey, which, I don't know, does Jim Carrey still have a career?
Not one that I remember.
What was the last good Jim Carrey film? Yes Man from 2009, where he was completely miscast?
The only thing I remember Jim Carrey for is he once had the top time on the Top Gear leaderboard, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, Jim Carrey's kind of irrelevant. Hopefully this helps rejuvenate it. We can hope, but I'm not exactly... I'm hoping Kick-Ass 2 does well, but I don't see it doing well.
Well, the first one did really well, so maybe just the name alone might get enough people, and not sure.
Oh, I think it'll make money, I just don't think it's going to be really good.
And not particularly good for anyone's career there, I suppose.
Probably not, although, I mean, you look at the people there, they're all gonna have, at least the younger stars, Aaron Johnson, Chloe Moritz, Christopher Mintz-Plasse, they've all got careers already. I don't think Kick-Ass 2 is gonna hurt them, but if it doesn't turn out to be good, it's not gonna help them at all either.
So, July now.
Yeah, we open
got
with...
Despicable Me 2.
Did you like Despicable Me?
Which, um, I haven't seen it, but it's been very mixed. I've heard good things, bad things, and everything in between. It's sort of interesting, I suppose, in that sense. I've never had that much mixture of like and dislike for anything I know, but that's just from my first-hand experience, not from internet, so...
Well, I didn't like Despicable Me 2. It was kind of a boring and nothing film. So that they're making a sequel at all surprised me, and that it's already getting released is... I just can't even believe that's happening, for one. And second, it's just, I don't have any faith in it.
The only thing I find interesting is that Steve Coogan's in it.
It's always nice to see Steve Coogan, I think, although he doesn't really get that many key roles anymore, or ever, really.
I don't know why. Maybe he just doesn't go looking for them or something.
Well, he's probably financially comfortable already, so he's probably okay.
Yeah, probably.
That same week has The Lone Ranger, which is Gore Verbinski teaming up with Johnny Depp and Armie Hammer, and it doesn't look good at all.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, Depp isn't even the lead, but he's the only one people are caring about. Armie Hammer's a good actor, and people liked him from The Social Network. Is probably what you guys would know him in the most. But I don't know. Lone Ranger, they spent way too much money on it. This thing has $250 million budget, and to make that back, it's going to have to be really good, and I don't think it will be.
Why 250 million? Isn't it just about, like... It's of the old Lone Ranger franchise, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's just a Western, and it has action, and it has Johnny Depp. And if they paid Johnny Depp $50 million, that still doesn't even excuse $200 million going elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean... The only Western you could have for that amount of money would be like that Cowboys and Aliens movie.
And that was done for, if memory serves, around $100 million.
Yeah, exactly. That was like same as the first Transformers or something like that.
Yeah, I have no idea how they spent their money on the Lone Ranger, but it looks to be, it could bomb as bad as Cowboys and Aliens did. Nobody wants a Western anymore. I like Westerns, but nobody wants them.
Yeah, and speaking as someone outside of America who never had that culture, I personally really don't care about Westerns. Nothing really in it for me.
This month we also have Grown Ups 2 because I guess Adam Sandler needed another get together with his friends.
You mean money, right?
Well, that, and, he gets to have all his friends on set for a month or two, and they get to crack jokes, and the camera films it, and everyone's happy except the audience.
Yeah. I did watch a video about the last movie he did where he was playing himself and his sister,
Jack and Jill.
yeah, Jack and Jill. And it was Red Letter Media. They did a video on it, and they were talking about how corporations make it in such a way they get so much money just from producing the film, let alone getting the money back from the audience. It was interesting, something you should look up.
That week also sees Guillermo del Toro actually directing a movie instead of just saying he's going to someday direct a movie. He's releasing Pacific Rim, which looks like a huge sci-fi movie and very, very easily could be really good.
Does the 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 front cover art, whatever you call it, looks very, very good. It could be very good. And giant robots are always fun.
Yeah, we don't get enough giant robot movies, and it also, for the gamers out there, the person who voices GLaDOS in the Portal games has a role in this one, and it's meant to be an homage to that character. So that's something to look out for.
Yes, indeed. And what else are we getting? 26th, the Wolverine, another Wolverine movie, if we needed another one of those. Are they doing anything with X-Men anymore, or is that over?
Well, this one, it was at one point going to be a reboot, at one point going to be a sequel. At this point, as far as I know, it's going to be a soft reboot sort of sequel, which that's going to be interesting. I like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and this one takes place mostly in Japan. So as long as it's not as bad as X-Men Origins Wolverine, we should be okay.
It it does look like a different beast than the other ones. I mean, even looking at the movie poster they have there is interesting, like completely different old Japanese filtered kind of art.
Yeah, and it could be good. James Mangold is a good director, and hopefully he does something good with this. He did 310 to Yuma, which was a really good, well, western, but it was good. And he did Night and Day, which was fine for an action movie. So, let's hope.
And also positive in a different sense. You said it's shot in Japan, and the majority of the cast is what appears to be Japanese or Chinese.
Yeah, it's basically Hugh Jackman's movie, and I don't know if it's going to be an origin or a sort of origin, or I don't even know what direction they're taking with it. They've changed it so many times over the course of it. Originally, Darren Aronofsky, who did Black Swan in 2010 and did The Wrestler before that, and Requiem for a Dream and Pi and The Fountain, he was originally going to direct it, and that would have been really interesting. But when they changed directors, they changed direction. They changed the way they were going with it, and at this point, who knows? The only thing I can guarantee.
So that's interesting.
The only thing I can guarantee is that it's going to be better than the next week's release, which is Smurfs 2.
Yeah, that's not even worth talking about. Straight on to, what month? August.
The first week of August has... They're making a sequel to Red. Well, they've made a sequel to Red. Red was 2010's Old People versus the World movie with Bruce Willis, John Malkovich, Helen Mirren, etc. Getting chased by Carl Urban and killing people. And lots of people liked it. I wasn't a big fan, but it was okay, and they're making a sequel to it because it made a lot of money.
I thought they would have had Christopher Walken for this one.
You would hope, but I don't know, maybe Walken doesn't need more money to star in a probably bad sequel. I mean, what's Bruce Willis been in the last couple of years that's been any good? Looper and nothing else.
Yeah, pretty much. I suppose he would have just been the logical choice to add on to the cast of, I suppose, but no luck there for them. So probably not worth your time.
There's also a 300s prequel, which is coming out, and it has Ava Green and nobody else really. My guess is that it goes direct to DVD, even though it's currently scheduled for theatrical release. Maybe it goes in theaters just because people recognize 300 as a brand name at this point. The This Is Sparta thing. But it doesn't look like it'll turn out well.
They could push Zack Snyder. He's also in this, but not as director by the looks of it.
No,
He's doing
he's
screenplay.
yeah, he's not directing. He didn't want to direct this one because lower budget, and he was too busy because that Superman thing is kind of coming out and took up all of the time.
Yeah, but I imagine they'll push his name whenever they can.
Oh, I'm sure, especially if Superman does well. If Superman does well, they might just make it a theatrical release anyway, even though that's only 2 months earlier.
Yeah, and then they can put from director of Man of Steel, Zack Snyder, on all the trailers.
Exactly. We also see Elysium, I think is how you'd pronounce it, which is by the director of District 9, Neil Blomkamp, which stars Matt Damon and Jodie Foster and Charlotte Copley, and it's another sci-fi. This is going to be a pretty good year for sci-fi if everything works out. There are at least a lot of attempts at sci-fi this year, and I mean, District 9 was great. I think that was almost universal, and this one,
Yes,
it's
at
not going
least
to be
in this chat.
it's not going to be a sequel to District 9, which people wanted, but it's going to be another sci-fi movie by the guy who did it. So I can't exactly say I'm disappointed that's happening.
Yeah, I forgot about this movie, but when I first heard about it, I was extremely excited for it, and I still am because I really loved District 9. That was a great, great movie. And I'm excited to see another one by Neil Blockman.
There's also a Percy Jackson sequel because I have no idea why there's a Percy Jackson sequel.
There was 3 books. That's basically why.
But it needs to be good and make money in order for them to do more. Did the first one make lots of money? I guess it must have. Looking at it now, it did, but I don't know anyone who liked it.
I don't know anymore. You see a lot of these movies, like Despicable Me 2, and I don't think they made that much money. Maybe there's another way they make money instead of just box office tickets that we don't know about. I have no idea. That's just conspiracy theory, me talking, but I don't know. There's a lot of cheap movies being made, and it's odd.
Yeah, I have no idea. I saw part of Percy Jackson, the first one, and I was like, no, this is not good. So I didn't even finish it. I couldn't. It was on TV. It was late at night. I didn't want to finish it. I had better things to do, like sleep.
Pretty much.
September brings us a new Riddick movie because that franchise, which I think the last one was 2004, apparently is still going to happen.
So, possible reboot, prequel then, by the sounds of it?
No, it's actually a sequel. They got the director from the last two. I'm pretty sure he did both Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick. And Vin Diesel wanted another one, so Vin Diesel's doing another one. And apparently Carl Urban's coming back too. And it's at least going to be R-rated, which is one of the problems Chronicles of Riddick had. And that's... I don't know. Chronicles of Riddick sucked. Pitch Black was pretty good, but it wasn't great. So... I don't know why anyone would want a Riddick movie now. I mean, it wasn't... Nobody remembers it.
Well, there was, if you remember, there was a Chronicle of Riddick video games not so long ago. Apparently that was kind of alright, so maybe that's what they're using, I don't know.
Well, they released the game, it was Dark Athena or something, I think was the original title, back when Chronicles of Riddick came out, and then they re-released it in the HD era with like an extra level, and I don't think it sold very well, but it was well received critically, and I don't... It's Vin Diesel's franchise, so fine, good on him if he wants to make more. I mean, he's pretty much the only reason Fast and Furious is still going, except now it's actually made money, so you can't say that anymore, but at one point he was the only reason it was still going.
Yeah, this is certainly not sure about a good year for movies yet, but a strange year.
And that strangeness continues later on. I mean, this month has The Little Mermaid being released in 3D. It has Star Wars Episode 2 being released in 3D. It has a Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs sequel. Does anyone remember Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs?
Yeah, that's just what we were talking about. I can't believe that got a sequel. I mean, I didn't see it, but it didn't look like it sold well at all.
It must have, if they're doing a sequel. I mean, the sequel would have had to start right after the first one was released, so they would have had to base it on box office total. But it was... I'm at a loss for words, honestly, when it comes to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know why you'd want an old-style Disney movie in 3D. Drawn animation in 3D just doesn't make sense in my mind in any capacity.
Yeah, I've never seen one. I haven't seen an attempt yet, so it'll at least be interesting. It might not actually work, and it's basically just the reason for them to re-release The Little Mermaid. Maybe they need another Little Mermaid sequel, and they're hoping this one makes a lot of money. I don't know.
Possibly. Oh, they bring maybe they are bringing these movies back and then putting out the sequels a bit later, so everyone remembers them.
It's entirely possible, although again, I don't know why anyone would want another Little Mermaid sequel. They did make sequels to The Little Mermaid, at least one or two, and I remember them not being any good.
I think it makes a certain amount of sense because you got a whole nother young generation to work with. So you re-release this, they see it for the first time, and then you can make more, and they'll be excited to see them again. Just like when Little Mermaid was released way long time ago.
Or Disney could not suck and put their DVDs in a vault and stop production of them for long stretches of time so people could just watch them at home.
That would work, but not enough money, so no.
Disney needs all of the money. September also sees the release of The Tomb, which, because if you haven't gotten your fix of Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger, teams them up for another movie.
And 50 Cent as well. Oh boy.
Oh hey, it also has Vinnie Jones. I like Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones is cool, but why is that movie? I get it. Like, people like seeing old guys killing people, but I don't like Stallone and I don't like Schwarzenegger, and I don't have any interest in this.
Personally, if I wanted to see old guys killing each other, I'd watch the scene in Harry Potter, I think it was Order of the Phoenix, where Voldemort and Dumbledore fight.
Yeah, and that's probably going to have better action than the entirety of The Tomb.
Probably, yes. Anyway, we're up to October. There's the Sin City and there's the Star Wars. From what at the beginning, on number 4, the 4th of October.
Yeah, Sin City is not going to be released in October. I'm calling that right now. They cast their lead actor, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, about a week ago, if that. It's out in 10 months, and they're just casting their lead actor. With how much post-production work has to go into that, I get that Robert Rodriguez works fast, but even he can't get it done in 10 months. They have to film it. It's a big film. It's going to take at least a month and a half to film. If it comes out in October, it's going to be a miracle.
Well, we'll see on that, and then the Star Wars Episode 3, and then the and then the that's the end of the prequels, and then we'll see the other ones next year, presumably.
Because those special effects are really going to look good in 3D, right? I mean, they're probably going to update them in order to release them in 3D, and they're going to anger even more people, which is just great.
Well, oh, you're talking about the other ones. I was talking, well, what could they change in Episode 3 to piss off more Star Wars fans?
Well, I don't think they're going to care about Episode 3. I'm talking about the originals. When the original trilogy gets released, in order to release in 3D, they're going to have to do enough work on the special effects, they might as well just remake them. And that's probably what they're going to do.
Which I probably won't care about, but will be interesting nonetheless. That'll probably be a pretty large cultural phenomenon, I guess. At least in the internet community.
Well, it's maybe going to cause some brain aneurysms, so that's going to be fun.
Oh yeah, it'll be fun.
October also sees the release of the American version of Oldboy, which Spike Lee is directing, and I know a lot of people like the original Oldboy. I've heard so many good things about it. I haven't seen it yet. I have 2 of that trilogy on DVD. I'm still looking for Oldboy, and then I will watch them. But yeah, I've heard universally positive things about Oldboy, and that they're making an American one, they're not going to make a lot of money with it, for one, and they have the original, which I'm not for unnecessary remakes. I don't like that. So it's probably going to be good. Spike Lee is a good filmmaker, but I can't say I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. But maybe these remakes are designed for people like myself who never saw the original, and they just wouldn't know about it otherwise. But yeah.
But then you're basing it on just the simple premise alone, without the trilogy to base that on, and the premise itself isn't going to draw in a whole lot of fans. I mean, it's going to be R-rated, and its cast is good. Its director is kind of irrelevant at this point, except for when he criticizes Tarantino for being racist. But I don't see it making back a lot of money.
Oh no, it probably won't make money at all.
October also sees the remake of Carrie, which was supposed to be earlier this year, but they pushed it back to October, presumably to finish the special effects, or maybe to do the smart thing and release a horror movie in, gasp, October.
That would make quite a bit of sense. Well, it wouldn't really matter here. We're probably going to get it, like, January next year or something.
I don't... Carrie's another one that I don't really know why they're remaking, especially because they're making it PG-13, and they're casting Chloe Moritz, who's like 15 or 16 right now, in the lead role, whereas in the original, what's her name? Sissy Spacek, she was like in her mid-20s by the time she did that, and that allows for more things to happen, you know?
Yeah, that's really... A horror movie in PG. That might be something in itself, unless another one exists that I don't know about.
PG-13, not PG.
Oh, well, we only have PG. We don't have another one.
Yeah, well, ratings in Australia, they don't base it on the ratings in Australia because you guys aren't going to make up the significant portion of the box office anyway.
I take offense to that.
It's true, though. The studios, they're not going to care.
I know. I thought that was funny, but apparently not.
What is funny is that they're already doing Paranormal Activity 5, which we mentioned earlier with Scary Movie 5 coming out earlier in the year, but yearly Paranormal Activity sequels, this might be the year that finally kills it. I mean, Saw made it to, what, 7 or 8 before we finally stopped going to those. I'm kind of hoping Paranormal Activity dies at this point, but I don't see it happening.
Well, if we're using Saw logic, as long as it's not Paranormal Activity 3D, it's okay. But if it's in 3D, then it's fucked.
Well, I don't think they would ever do it in 3D because that kind of defeats the whole found footage thing. I don't think there's yet to be a found footage movie that was in 3D because that just screams post-production or screams I'm chugging around a huge 3D camera which is too heavy for my shoulder, but I'm gonna do that anyway.
Yeah, those cameras are ridiculous.
The World's End is also coming out, which is by Edgar Wright and stars Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, but is not the conclusion to the Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz trilogy. That's supposed to be out next year. But The World's End is basically, well, an end-of-the-world movie by these guys, and they're just going to do the same type of thing. It just doesn't technically count as part of their trilogy.
Okay. So it'll be a fun movie then, basically.
As long as it's funnier than Paul, I'll be okay with that.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that. Then we're on to November.
Which has the Ender's Game movie finally maybe coming out. I mean, it's scheduled to come out and it's shooting. But, I mean, with how many times they've tried to make an Ender's Game movie, I'm not exactly thinking it's going to happen. Just based on that they haven't done one yet. It's still not out. I haven't seen a trailer for it. Therefore, there's no guarantee.
Alright. And then immediately after that is what I was talking about before, what I think the worst thing of the year will be. I don't even want to say it, it's that bad.
They're doing a One Direction concert movie because One Direction is big, or was big in 2012, and they're hoping that One Direction is still going to be big in 2013, which, who knows?
Isn't Justin Bieber less popular now, and that was like almost immediately after his movie came out? Or am I mixing things up?
I don't think it was right after the movie came out, but it was soon after, and it was more... Well, he hasn't really released anything lately, I don't think.
Apart from smoking marijuana.
Well, yeah, and beating up his bodyguard, apparently. It's been in the news a lot, but he hasn't actually made any music lately, so... yeah, I have no idea.
Assuming he made music, but anyway. Back to movies, we've immediately after that, on the same day, is Thor: The Dark World. So it's a sequel to the Avengers Thor, the first one, I think.
Which was my second least favorite Avengers lead-up. I didn't really like Thor. It was kind of boring. It wasn't very fun. And I don't know, well, of course we need a sequel to it, but is it going to be any good? I don't even know who the villain is in it. Does anyone know who the villain is in it?
I have no idea. They wouldn't do that big Avengers villain they led up to in Thor, though, obviously. Maybe a slight first encounter that nothing happens in, but I don't know.
Well, Stellan Skarsgård was he was possessed in the Avengers, I think it was, or maybe it was at the end of Thor. I don't really remember. It's all blurring together. But he can't really be a villain.
Yeah. And then after that is the second Hunger Games movie, Catching Fire, which I'm going to call now will not be very good compared to the first one, because that's how the book was. And so the second one will be pretty meh, and then the third one will be terrible, because that's how I remember the books.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, just because, well, that is how the books went. But the director isn't someone I like. He did Constantine, which was awful. He did I Am Legend, which was okay. He did Water for Elephants, which is okay. And now he's doing Catching Fire. I really like The Hunger Games. I think it has the potential to still be a good movie, but I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I wouldn't be either. The second one was just sort of like, oh, it's the first one again, but slightly less tension and less interesting side things going on. But I didn't really like the movie because it didn't really explore those side things anyway, and the romance was completely thrown in instead of what it was in the book, which was like have a romance with him so you can get stuff to survive the games instead of just being romance for some reason.
Yeah, there was far more ambiguity in the book regarding why they were all in love or not really in love. And yeah, the movie didn't really capture that, but it was still a lot of fun, and Jennifer Lawrence was really good in it. So we'll see. Catching Fire, it's going to be big. It's going to make a lot of money. Will it be good? I don't know.
It depends how much Twilight they want to be, I guess.
Yeah, it could fall into the Twilight trap. If it's anything like the second Twilight movie, it's going to be worse than The Hunger Games, the first one was.
So, nothing really else in November?
No, Disney has a new animated thing coming out called Frozen, which nobody cares about at this point because we don't know enough about it. December, the first big release is, well, after a Tyler Perry movie, because there always has to be a Tyler Perry movie, is the next Hobbit. Now, I really, really like The Hobbit, and after seeing it, I'm okay with them making 3 movies.
As am I, though. Should we clear up? I'm not exactly clear on myself. Will they kill Smaug in this one or the next one? Because the title is The Hobbit: The Desolation of Smaug, so it's a bit ambiguous.
Well, maybe that's supposed to be the surprise. I don't know. I'm hoping they don't, because we still need a villain in the third one.
I'm just looking at the cast list so we can see which characters are coming back. Legolas is back because Orlando Bloom is in it by the looks of it. And so's Frodo, but he was also in that. And then, was Stephen Fry and Bill Colony in the first Hobbit?
I didn't notice them if they were. I think they're just gonna be new characters in this one.
Okay. And there's Hugo Weaving as the Elrond again.
It's good.
So that will be good.
Well, it's really good to see that the exposition team is going to be back. Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett, and Christopher Lee, who in the first one only provided exposition, and they're probably going to do the same in the next one.
Probably. The reason why I think we're in agreement with this is why they have 3 movies is because The Hobbit, like just the book, could probably fit into one long movie, but the reason they do 3 movies is they really want to get the other Tolkien backstory stuff onto the big screen, and this is basically the only way they're going to manage that, because there isn't really much story. It's more just exposition in the other ones. So this is the last proper story one, I suppose, that they could get out that enough people know about already.
Yeah, it's that, and it's just that Peter Jackson loves Middle-earth, and because of the passion he has for it, I almost feel that passion, and I'm like, okay, I can spend another 10 hours in this world. I'm okay with that.
And then spend another 20 hours in the extended cut, which I would happily do, because they're so much fun, those movies.
Jackson's actually already cut his extended cut for the first Hobbit, and it's only about 25, I think, minutes longer than the theatrical. Which, I mean, what does that bring it up to? 3 hours, which is close to the Fellowship's extended cut. So we'll see. It's gonna be fun home video releases.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely. That's in Christmas season as well, that movie. So grab your family for that, I suppose.
But don't grab them for Anchorman: The Legend Continues, which is another December release, and I hope I'm not the only one who doesn't care that they're making another Anchorman. I know it was a big deal when Will Ferrell announced it, but I just don't like Will Ferrell, and I didn't like Anchorman, and I don't see a reason that they need to make another one.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. I don't remember the last thing Will Ferrell did that I enjoyed.
Well, he's actually been good in dramas. He was good in Stranger Than Fiction. He was good in Everything Must Go. He was good in Winter Passing. Although he was the weakest link in Winter Passing, which was a great movie, and Zoe Deschanel fans, go watch it. It's a really good drama. But his comedies all seem off to me.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I only really know him from his comedy stuff, and it just doesn't feel quite right.
Also in December is 47 Ronin, which is an action movie starring Keanu Reeves, because, Keanu Reeves doesn't age and stuff. And apparently it has some 40-minute long battle scene where Keanu Reeves fights a bunch of samurai or something. And I don't know, this thing's been in production for quite a while, and Keanu Reeves is the main body getting it done. And it could be really, really bad and laughably so, but I want to see it just to see how it turns out.
Yeah, I want to see that as well. I mean, I like Keanu Reeves. I think he's not the greatest actor, but when he's in the right position, he's enjoyable to carry a movie.
Yeah, he can be a leading man. He just can't be a leading man in a drama, in an action movie with a bunch of samurai, and it's some big special effects and high action scenes, and I could see it working.
Yeah, I can see that working too. I mean, let's hope it's better than the later Matrix movie, at least.
Yeah, those kind of took a nosedive a little bit.
Just a little bit.
There are also
Anything
there are,
else?
well, there are some movies that are coming out that don't have release dates yet, but I know will come out in 2013. Like, there's a Machete sequel, because I don't know how many people saw Machete, but Machete was awesome. It was Robert Rodriguez and Danny Trejo teaming up to basically take on racism in Texas. And they're making a sequel called Machete Kills, which is done filming. It's pretty much done post-production. It'll be out sometime in the summer.
Is that addressing the same topic, or will it be a different kind of racism or other social issue, or more of the same?
It'll probably be more of the same in terms of theme, but in terms of plot, okay, here's how the plot lays out. The President of the United States, who is played by Charlie Sheen, tasks Machete with taking down a drug dealer who's played by Mel Gibson. Now, you've got Mel Gibson and Charlie Sheen in the same action movie, and how can you tell me you don't want to see that?
That I would see that.
Exactly. That's more so than Robert Rodriguez directing it, more so than Danny Trejo getting another awesome leading role. I want to see Charlie Sheen as the President of the United States and Mel Gibson as a drug dealer.
That will be pretty damn funny, and hopefully just as politically impacting.
Yeah, that Machete had something on its mind made it kind of more important than it probably should have been. But it was also a really fun action movie. It was grindhouse style, like Planet Terror was, like Death Proof's first half was, and if the sequel is like that and it has the same completely over the top and ridiculous action and still manages to make a point, it's destined to be pretty fun.
Yeah, I'll definitely see that, and maybe if it's good, I'll probably get both Machete 1 and this one at the same time on DVD.
At the end of Machete, they actually promised a third one too. Like, they had already said Machete will return in Machete Kills and Machete Kills Again. So it's a planned trilogy. I'm guessing it'll be based on how much Machete Kills makes, but I'm definitely hoping that we get all three.
Yeah, I'd love to see the complete trilogy, especially if they have planned it out and they've even planned out the story and plot like see where that finale goes. Like, will the president be dead or something? We'll find out, I guess. Could be anything with these movies.
Yeah, it could go anywhere. Another one I'm looking forward to that doesn't have a release date is an quote-unquote improv comedy starring Olivia Wilde and Anna Kendrick called Drinking Buddies, which I think just the idea of having Olivia Wilde and Anna Kendrick in a movie about drinking buddies where they both work at a brewery and they spend their time drinking and that leads to shenanigans and it's an improv comedy. I think that could either be hilariously miscalculated and will be a complete disaster, or it'll be hilarious.
Either one of those will be fun to watch, at least.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't actually know how good Olivia Wilde would be at improv comedy, but I have a feeling that Anna Kendrick would be pretty decent at it, considering her style of humor is it's pretty dark and it's sarcastic, and well, I like that. So I think seeing an improv comedy with that potentially going off against a completely different style of comedy, well, it'll be interesting if nothing else.
Yes, definitely. There's quite a few of those this year.
Improv comedies?
No, interesting movies. Apart from Hobbit, I guess we haven't really. Apart from Hobbit, I guess we haven't really said any that'll definitely be fantastic. We've mostly just said they're interesting.
Well, I think if Sin City does get released, it'll probably be fantastic. But like I said, I don't think there's any way that it gets released in 2012. Just because, I mean, okay, we've been waiting for this sequel for 8 years, and they keep pushing it back. And even though it's filming right now, it will happen. I don't see it getting released in 2012, but I'm pretty sure it'll be good. And what else? I know there are definitely some that are going to be bad. I mean, we've got, what's it called? Identity Thief. Identity Thief's going to be bad. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, Anchorman as well probably won't be that great, I imagine.
Well, maybe not for people like us. I know that Anchorman actually has a pretty big following. I don't understand it. I'll never understand it, but I know that it does.
Yeah, I suppose. Oh, Paranormal Activity 5 and Scary Movie 5. They'll be the bad ones.
Paranormal Activity still scares people, though. It might not... The series isn't really declining. They've just stayed kind of average, but scary. Like, the filmmaking behind them isn't that great, but they're scaring people, and if they continue to accomplish that, it won't matter. And this one's going to make money because they can shoot them at such a low budget. I think they're still shooting under 10 million per, and they'll make that opening weekend.
Yeah. I suppose it depends what you define, like, their purposes is, like, more of the same. Like, if what you're doing is difficult and you keep doing that consistently, that can be considered good. But what if you're doing something that's not that difficult and you keep consistently doing that, then that can be considered bad. So, depends what you define, I suppose.
Oh yeah, I definitely don't think that the Paranormal Activity films are good, but I think that if they're accomplishing their goal, then they're at least successful. And so far they have been. That's why people keep going. It's the worst one of the series, and the one that kills it isn't going to be the last one. It's going to be the second last one. People are going to go and they're going to be bored and they're not going to be scared, and then they won't go see the next one. But the second to last one is still going to make money.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the roller coaster ride of movies at the moment, I suppose, in that kind of sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that deserves to make money that doesn't, like Cloud Atlas last year, which just got snubbed from the Oscars. Didn't make enough money to cover its budget, but it was one of the most ambitious projects possibly ever. But it didn't make its budget back. Meanwhile, we have things like, well, Paranormal Activity, which is making a dozen times its budget back at the box office. It's pretty ridiculous.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's really good or not, because a movie like Cloud Atlas, for instance, might be remembered as a classic and be re-released later at some point or something like that, or it might not. But it's hard to say with how much money. I mean, sure, Paranormal Activity is making a lot of money, but then you've got something like The Hobbit, for instance, which is making probably quite a bit more money, and that's actually really good.
Yeah, The Hobbit's gonna... Well, The Hobbit, they could have released it in 6 movies and it probably still would have made money. People love The Hobbit, people love Lord of the Rings, people love Peter Jackson. I mean, even I think his worst film is The Lovely Bones, and it still made a lot of money. So people are just gonna they're gonna see it and they're gonna like it.
That wasn't a bad movie, and it definitely had ambition and whatnot behind it. So it was not like his greatest work, but it's a lot of ambition and passion and all those lovely things that people should have behind it. So I thought it was okay. I thought it was
I
pretty
didn't
good.
like The Lovely Bones very much. It was kind of boring, and also it kind of, I mean, the girl gets killed at the start and she goes to heaven, kind of, and that's treated kind of like the killer did a good thing by sending her there, and that's, is that really the type of message you want to send?
Oh, I didn't see it as that. I saw it more, well, I'm here now. I should make the most of it, I suppose, is how I saw it. I didn't see in anything saying death is good in any kind of respect. It was more like, I guess you see everything, how it's so mysterious and whatnot. It would be kind of how a child would see things like death. It's just so mysterious and wonderful. They don't really associate it with, like, bad things, I guess. Unless they're a fucked up child, but she wasn't.
That's fair, but it wasn't really the child that saw it that way. It was the, you watch the film and you go, well, okay, she's happier here, and she doesn't have any problems now, and this world is so mysterious and wonderful. And you're like, well, okay, I want to be killed by that now, and that's, it's a really weird place to put your audience.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Um, well, I always thought it from her character's viewpoint, but maybe it would have been better if they put that more just like this is just how she views things and how she copes with being dead, I suppose.
Well, if it didn't focus so much on what's still happening on Earth and their whole we need to solve the mystery of who murdered her, then it probably would have worked. It would have worked better if it was just her exploring the afterlife and finding that friend and seeing all the wonderful imagery that Jackson filled the film with. It probably would have worked a lot better for me.
Yeah, that's what I think as well.
Do you have anything else from 2013 that you'd like to add?
No, just there's a Walking with Dinosaurs 3D, which I watched as a kid. I really liked it as a kid, but I can't remember anything about it at all, which is just curious because I remember things pretty well from my childhood. So maybe I'll see that just to see what I liked as a kid.
That's if it actually happens, which, considering how there's basically no information on it at the moment, I wouldn't exactly say that's a great possibility.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that is all from us. So thank you for listening to this movie podcast thing, and hopefully you managed to stay through it to the end. We had to kind of switch things up right at the last minute, considering we lost 1/3 of our party. Psychic Taco, you suck. We were actually gonna make fun of you a lot more than we did, which I don't know. We might have to edit in some insults thrown in every now and then. Knifer, you wanna get him?
We were too engrossed in movies. We shall abuse you later, Taco, and we shall enjoy it.
Yeah, there's going to be punishment for skipping out on us, even though it was not exactly your decision to do so. But yeah, that's basically all from us. So we will talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.